not. They just care about the money. They just care about the sales. They just care about the charts. Whether Jermaine Dupri wants to accept that or not, the streets have been replaced by the internet. Name the last artist in the past 15 years who blew up not because of the internet, but because of the streets.
What up, y'all? Out here getting this walk. I want to say shout out to everybody that came out to the LL Cool J event last night. I learned something, I think, when I was there. And what I think I learned is that the reason why is no male stars in hip hop anymore that have the impact that LL Cool J has and had is because the goal in hip hop used to be impact, not sales, not charts, impact. How hard, pause, you could impact the streets. And that's no longer the goal. And that's to me is the sole reason why rap is not what rap used to be. Because niggas don't care about impacting the streets no more.
So Steph Curry's overseas right now playing for Team USA's basketball team in the Olympics. But recently he got caught on camera saying that he's tired of hearing Kendrick Lamar's song, Not Like Us. And many people have responded to this, but one person whose response kind of caught my attention was Jermaine Dupri. You saw the clip that I just posted. He said that the sole reason he believes there's no more male stars is because he believes that artists no longer care about having impact in the streets. And I have an issue with what he said for several reasons. But first, before I get into that, make sure you guys hit the like and subscribe button. My name is Mfasis, and this is a podcast that I started called the Talking to Myself podcast, where I get into some of these topics related to music. But to get back to the topic, I have an issue with Jermaine Dupri's statement for several reasons. Number one, he's kind of acting as if Steph Curry doesn't have a right to be tired. Like, no matter what, people are gonna get tired of a song. That's gonna happen. Like, I remember like 10 years ago when I was still in school, right when I was about to graduate, there was a really popular song by Pharrell called Happy. I'm sure many of you heard that song already, but if you haven't, like the title says, it's just a song where Pharrell's talking about being happy. Even then, there were people talking about how tired they were of that song. You had many people making jokes and memes about how tired they was of that song. And that was a positive song. And people were still tired of it. So it shouldn't surprise you that people are tired of a song like Not Like Us. Because even though Not Like Us is a good song, and even though it's one of the greatest disses of all time, it's a negative song that people can have a right to be tired of. And again, I'm speaking objectively about this. I'm not tired of the song Not Like Us, but I'm still looking at it from somebody like Steph Curry's perspective. People are gonna be tired of it. Again, a diss song naturally a diss song is a negative song, no matter what, no matter which way you flip it. It is a negative song because it is meant to diss somebody. Diss songs by nature are negative. Think about drill music. When you think about drill music, so much of drill music, all of drill music essentially, is based in dissing dead people. It's mad negative, and people don't want to hear that every day. Like, that's just what it is. I feel like too many people in this whole Kendrick and Drake beef, they got too caught up in trying to glaze Drake or glaze Kendrick, and it's like, it seems like not enough people are just looking at it from just a neutral perspective. And so they're kind of trying to attack Steph Curry, when in reality, I've never heard Steph Curry say that he was Team Drake. Now, maybe he is Team Drake, I don't know. But maybe he's just tired of the song. And I feel like Jermaine Dupri kind of reached a bit when responding to this and not taking that into consideration. But another issue I had with what Jermaine Dupri said here was he kept emphasizing the streets over and over again, and how artists don't care anymore about making it in the streets or having an impact in the streets and all that. But at the end of the day, the streets have been replaced by the internet. Whether Jermaine Dupri wants to accept that or not, the streets have been replaced by the internet. That's a fact. Really think about it. I challenge you to do this. For anybody listening who might disagree, I challenge you to do this. Name the last artist in the past 15 years who blew up not because of the internet, but because of the streets. You can't name anybody. Even all the street rappers that we've seen come and go over the past 15 years, they blew up thanks to the internet. I'm not saying that the streets didn't have a role at all. I'm not saying that a song can't resonate with the streets and become a song that people play all over the place, but it's not nearly as relevant when it comes to having a successful music career as it was back in Jermaine Dupri's heyday. That's just the reality of the situation. Another issue I had with what Jermaine Dupri said was he mentioned that artists back in his day only cared about impact and it wasn't about sales, and that's cap. That is cap. I don't know why he just lied like that. Now, I'm not saying artists back then didn't care about impact, but what I am saying is it was always about sales. I don't know why he's trying to make it seem like they didn't care about sales. They absolutely cared about sales. All those things did matter. If it didn't matter, they wouldn't have signed to these major labels in the first place. You can make a strong argument that from the time that these original hip-hop labels sold out to these major labels, hip-hop was pretty much finished from that moment. You can make a strong argument for that. Because guess what? You think Interscope cares about impact on the streets? You think Jive or any of these other labels, Sony, Warner Bros., Universal, RCA, any of these labels under these, main umbrellas or whatever, you think they really care about impact on the streets? No, they never have, they never will, and they currently do not. They just care about the money, they just care about the sales, they just care about the charts. That's just what it is. If they really cared about the streets, they would still be prioritizing that to this day. Do you still see people, interns for these labels running around on the streets trying to sell CDs or hand out flyers and stuff like that? No, they're not doing that. They're not still trying to go to local record shops and pitch them their CDs. Like, they're not doing that. What they're doing is prioritizing the internet because they've always and only cared about the money and the numbers. That's just what it is. And you can't say that artists back then didn't care about that, because if they didn't care about that, they wouldn't have signed up to partner with these people who do care about that. They would have just stayed independent and gone as far as they could go and maintain the purity of the genre. But they didn't want to do that. And I'm not trying to demonize them for choosing to sign, but I'm just still going to call a spade a spade. Another issue I have with what Jermaine Dupri said was the fact that he kept saying that nobody cares about having an impact. He said specifically on the streets, but I want to just kind of focus on the part where he said impact. There's plenty of artists right now who care a lot about impact, but the problem is y'all don't like none of those people. Y'all don't like them. And I'm talking to Jermaine Dupri too. Y'all don't like them. Y'all don't listen to them. Y'all don't promote them. Y'all don't do any of that. Y'all don't care about those artists. The artists who are actually there's an whether Jermaine Dupri realizes this or not, and I do believe that Jermaine Dupri sounded very out of touch here. But whether Jermaine Dupri realizes it or not, there's an overabundance of artists out there who are trying to have an impact. They're trying to make music that has an impact, but y'all don't listen to those people. Y'all don't sign those people. Y'all don't promote and uplift those people. If y'all really cared about impact, people like Rhapsody and Big Crit would be some of the biggest rappers in the country if y'all really cared about artists who care about impact. But y'all don't want to hear them. Y'all don't want to give them a shot. The last issue I have with what Jermaine Dupri said is I don't think Jermaine Dupri understands, or maybe he does but just doesn't want to admit it. The concept of a star has changed. It's not the concept of a star. It's not the same as what it was back in 1994. Like back in Jermaine Dupri's generation, labels had more control over the distribution of media. They don't have that same level of control now because the internet to an extent it's decentralized how the media that gets put out there, that gets distributed. Now, labels still have a lot of control, obviously, but not as much as before. So let's say hypothetically, back in 94, they had, 98% control over the distribution of media and what media comes out. Again, that's not a factual number. I'm just throwing out like an estimation. Like if they had 98% back then, today they might maybe have about 75% control, which is still a lot, but that's still a dramatic drop in such a short window of time. That's a really dramatic drop. And you got to keep in mind that there's more artists coming out now than ever, because again, the internet has allowed for media and content to kind of become decentralized, where you don't have to go and be approved by like this gatekeeper to have a chance to get your stuff out to the masses. You could just upload your content, you upload your music or your video onto the internet, and hey, there's a chance that it could just go viral that day. Not saying that's a guarantee, but it could happen. And that's allowed for, and that's allowed for fans to go into more specific niches that they want to go into. Like music fans, the general public, the type of content they like, the type of content that they get into, the type of niches that they align with, it's more segmented than ever. So another reason I think that, the main reason I think that the concept of a star has changed is because there's really no more household names anymore. That's never gonna happen again. I think Jermaine Dupri, when he was talking, he kind of was overlooking that. Like back in his day, they had the term household names, basically saying that you were somebody who was so universally known that anybody within a household, whether it's the kids, the teenagers, the middle-aged parents, or like the grandparents or whatever, everybody knows who you are. That sort of thing doesn't exist anymore. Now the internet has allowed for people to be so spread out across different niches to where you could have somebody who has 1 million subscribers who is a star within his or her specific niche, but the average person never heard their music. And I think that's how it's going to be from this point out. The era of like the Drakes and the Kendrick Lamars, and even before that, the eras of the 50 Cents, and even before that, the eras of the whoever, right? Like the Tupac and Biggie, whoever. That era of like these specific stars who are just like so big that they're like pop stars. I personally believe that era is like 95% over. I'm not saying there's not going to be certain artists who are going to be very, very popular. There's always going to be those like really popular stars to an extent, but it's not going to be like what it was 30 years ago, because now fans have way too many options and they're getting into whatever they specifically like. They're not just sticking with the music that is being forced upon them. But let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. Let me know, do you agree with Jermaine Dupri?